Hello and welcome to the basics of acoustic guitar. You know, I've been playing guitar for over 25 years, and one of the great things about guitar is that you can always learn something new. With just a few chords, you can learn literally thousands of songs in just a few days. All it takes is consistent time each day and the willingness to practice for at least 20 minutes each day. The main thing we want you to remember is to have fun. Just to have fun with this process and to know that we all learn at our own ability and timing. One question people ask me is, should I play an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar? And that really depends on what kind of music you really like to listen to. Today I'm holding an acoustic guitar. The benefit of that is I don't need an amplifier. An electric guitar may be easier for some people to start to learn on because the strings might be easier to push down on electric. Whatever kind of guitar you choose to use for these lessons, go ahead and pick one that you feel will be easiest on your hands and your fingers as your fingers get used to pressing the strings down. As you progress through this video, feel free to pause anytime to practice some of the strumming and chords that we're learning. Feel free to review previous days and pause to practice what you've just heard. And if you feel comfortable enough, you can go ahead and skip on to the next day. We'll also be listing various songs that you can play based on the chords that you're learning. I think you'll be pretty surprised at how quickly you can play songs with just a few days of practice. So let's begin. The first thing we're going to talk about is holding the guitar, which might sound sort of simple, but there is a right way to do it. You want to be comfortable with it. And I'm holding an acoustic guitar, so the body is a bit bigger around this area where my arm is. But you want to be comfortable. Obviously, there's a cutout for my leg to fit in here. When it comes to holding the guitar, posture is important. You want to make sure that you're not leaning over the strings and looking all the time, and that can affect how you play. You want to be loose and relaxed. We want to have an upright posture. I've got my right arm draped over the top of the guitar, and I've got my fretting hand up here on the frets. One thing to remember when you're holding the guitar is to keep the headstock, which is this part up here, you want to keep the headstock up. Sometimes when beginners begin to play guitar, they have a tendency to let the headstock drop down, and it becomes more difficult to reach your hand, your fretting hand, to where it needs to go. So you want to keep that headstock up and comfortable for you so that you can get the right sound you want out of the guitar. Also, when we talk about holding the guitar, let's also talk about the strings. The strings, as they're listed on the standard tuning, are E, A, D, G, B, and E. Let's take a closer look as we talk about the right way to push the strings down. When pushing a guitar string down, you want to use the tip of your finger. And you want to stay as close as you can to the edge of the frets. The frets are these metal lines that you see on the neck of the guitar. You don't want to push onto that fret or else it'll make a buzzing sound or won't sound very good. But when you hold down a chord, you want to use the tip of your finger. The chord I'm making here is an A chord, which we're going to learn about in just a moment. Make sure you use the tip of your fingers. Also, you don't want to press the strings too hard. You want to press them hard enough so that you get the sound you want, like this. But you also don't want to push them so softly that you get a lot of plinking sort of sound like this. So push hard enough, but not too hard. Also, when you're holding the strings down, imagine that you're holding an egg in your hand, that you have an arch to your hand. That way, your fingertips will be more adequately positioned to hold down the strings each time you're chording. When you're holding an acoustic guitar, your strumming will have an angle to it because of the size of the body. Now the strumming motion on acoustic guitar or electric should always come from the wrist. We want to make sure that our wrist is the action that's coming with the strumming, not with the whole arm. But initially we want to get you used to using your wrist for strumming. As they say, it's all in the wrist, and the same goes with playing acoustic guitar. Let's take a closer look at how to hold a guitar pick. When holding a guitar pick, imagine that you're giving a thumbs up. You can rest the guitar pick on your fingers like this. Very loosely, but it's balanced so it bounces on your index finger. And then all you have to do is just press your thumb onto that guitar pick. And the weight of your thumb is holding the pick down. And remember, when you're strumming, it's all in the wrist. A lot of times what I like to do too is to use two fingers with the thumb underneath for a little bit more control as I'm picking and strumming. Well, now that we've covered holding the guitar, the strings, and how to properly push down the strings, you also want to always remember to do something really important every time before you play guitar, and that is tune. You always want to make sure your guitar is in tune. Now this guitar, I'm using a headstock tuner, which clips on to the top. These are very accurate, and they pick up the vibration of the strings from the guitar. These only cost about $15. You can order them online or go to any music store and pick one up. You just simply clip it to the top, and it reads the vibration of each string, and then it tells you either to tune it up or down. I highly recommend you purchase one of those. You can also get guitar tuner for an electric guitar that plugs directly in to the electric jack, and that gives you a very clean signal to the tuner so that you can tune it properly as well. But it's always very important to tune before every time you play. Okay, now we're going to talk about chords. The first chord you're going to learn here is A major. Anytime that you see a letter by itself next to a chord, that means it's a major chord. We're going to learn the A chord because all of your fingers will be on one fret. In this case, the second fret, which is right here. Let's take a closer look at the A chord. When we talk about guitar chords, I'm going to refer to the 6 strings of the guitar, and I'm going to count from the strings from the highest sound, the E string, which we'll count as 1. And it'll go all the way down to the 6th string, which is the low E. When we play the A chord, we're going to take our first finger, our index finger, and put it on the 3rd string. 1, 2, 3. And we'll put that index finger right there. Then we'll take our middle finger and put it on the 4th string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll take our ring finger and put it on the 2nd string. 1, 2. Using the tips of my fingers, I'll push those strings down, and this is called the A major chord. Now notice where my thumb is when I play chords. Your thumb should either be wrapped around the neck, such as this. You can also place it on the back of the neck with your thumb facing up toward the ceiling. And that gives you a good pressure on the strings while you play. But feel free to have fun with this, to play the A chord for a few minutes and get your fingers and hand used to it. It's a lot like lifting weights. Your fingers have to get stronger and used to the smaller space on a guitar neck. But as you get used to it, your fingers will develop calluses and will become more used to this process. Keep practicing the A chord on this first day of lessons, and we'll see you tomorrow for day number 2. Well, welcome back. Today we're going to focus on some basic strumming patterns. Let's be reminded that our strumming comes from our wrist and not from our whole arm. You get a lot more control with the wrist movement as you strum back and forth. Let's start very easy with the A chord we learned yesterday. And we're simply going to play the chord on every beat with a beat of 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's play along with that count. 1, 2, 3, 4. In A chord position. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What we just learned was a simple downstroke strumming pattern. Now what we're going to add is a down-up strumming pattern, which adds a 1 and 2 and to the count. So the count will sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again, in an A chord position. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Go ahead and practice that for a few minutes while we move on to the next segment. So far you've learned one chord and the strumming of down and also down up. Did you know there are a lot of songs that only use one chord? One of them is called Born on the Bayou by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Sort of like this. Born on the bayou, born on the bayou. Look at this list of other one-chord songs and see what you can play with just the A chord. It's pretty cool to see how far you've already come. Well, welcome back to day 3. Just yesterday you learned about the down strumming pattern and the down up strumming pattern. Let's review that again in the A chord position, and remember to use your wrist for your strumming. Let's get our fingers in place with A chord and use the rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Let's also review the down-up strumming pattern as well, which is the rhythm of 1 and 2 and, like so. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Well, so far you're doing great. Now it's time to learn another chord. This is called the E major chord. Counting from the highest string of E, let's take our index finger and count 1, 2, 3, and leave our finger there. Then we'll take our middle finger and put it on the 5 string on the 2nd fret. Remember, our index finger is on the 3rd string on the 1st fret. We'll take our middle finger on the 5 string on the 2nd fret, and then our ring finger on the 4th string on the 2nd fret. And that chord will sound like this. Go ahead and pause this and play a few minutes of just getting used to the E chord, remembering to use the tips of your fingers to hold down the strings. All right, well, now that you've learned the E chord, you can congratulate yourself. You have learned 2 guitar chords, A and E. And now we're going to take just a few moments and practice strumming and switching between the A and the E chord. Now be reminded, if you can't keep up, it's okay. Your fingers have to get used to being in these strange positions. Do your best to keep it on rhythm, but know that it just takes a little bit of time to get used to moving your fingers from one position to the next. Now, one of the good things about the way we're doing these chords is that it minimizes how much you have to move your fingers. For example, in the A position here, your index finger, which is here, only has to move a slight bit down to do the E. So if I'm playing A and I slide my index finger down and I move my other two fingers over, it's very minimal movement when switching chords. And that's something to remember. When you switch chords, you don't have to take your fingers all the way off the neck when switching. You want to keep your fingers as close to the guitar neck as possible. So let's look at switching and strumming between A and E, and using the 1, 2, 3, 4 rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. We will do 8 counts on A and 8 counts or 8 beats on E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, now that you've picked up the 2 chords of A and E, you can actually play a number of songs now. Songs like London Bridge. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Look at this list of songs. Feel free to pause it here and see what songs you can pick out and learn how to play with just A and E. Feel free to look those songs up if you're not familiar with them to learn the rhythm of them. But you already know the chords, A and E. You're doing great, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Well, welcome back. You who have conquered the chord of A and E, you're doing great. Let's start our time together by just practicing A and E and switching between those 2 chords. Remember, we'll use the rhythm 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to use the tips of our fingers when pushing down the strings. We also want to minimize taking our fingers off the neck when we switch strings. You want to keep your fingers as close to the neck as you can, and that will help you switch chords a little bit faster. Remember, don't get frustrated if you can't keep up at this time. Keep practicing on your own. Remember, at least 20 minutes a day, and you'll be surprised how quickly you pick it up. Also remember that when you push these strings down, it's a little bit uncomfortable at first. Just give it time. Your fingers will pick it up and develop calluses and make it a lot easier in the future. But here we go. Let's practice A and E. I'll do 8 counts or beats of A and then 8 counts or beats of E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, in this lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about rhythms and how you can play with different sort of rhythm to get a different feel for different kinds of songs. We're going to start with a well-known rhythm, which is more of a blues or a rock rhythm using the A and E chord. And it sounds something like this. I'm just playing the A chord. Strum, down, 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 down. And that's simply playing the A chord in a different kind of rhythm. Remembering that my wrist is the one doing the action, and my pick is staying close to the strings. Let's take a closer look at the blues rhythm. Down, down, down. Now as we've learned this new rhythm, let's practice switching from A for 8 counts to E for 8 counts, using this blues style rhythm. Down, 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 down. And E. Well, welcome back. We hope you're doing well on this new day. We hope you remember to keep practicing on your own for at least 20 minutes each day to remember these chords, to get your fingers nice and hardened with some calluses. It's also, when you play guitar, it also works out this muscle of your wrist a little bit. You might be feeling that. And as you play and get more used to playing guitar, you're going to feel that become a little bit more comfortable. Like I said earlier, it's sort of like lifting weights. And at first it hurts, but as it develops muscle and your arms get used to it, you'll find it becomes even more comfortable. But let's take our time today reviewing the A and E chords and strumming those together using the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and E. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Now we're going to do something very exciting. We're going to learn a new chord, the D chord. Buckle up, it gets awesome. Okay, so today we're going to learn a new chord, the D chord. And using the method we've already discussed, we're going to count from the highest string, the E string, which is 1. We're going to take our index finger and put it on the 2nd fret and count 1, 2, 3. And put that index finger with the tip down, holding down that string, not too hard, not too soft, but so it's comfortable. Then we'll take our middle finger and simply put that on the 1st string, also on the 2nd fret, as so. Then we'll take our ring finger and put it on the 2nd string, 1, 2, and put it on the 3rd fret. So it makes a chord that looks like this. And it will sound like this. Now also be reminded that when you're playing a D chord, you don't want to hit all of the strings. If I hit the low E string or the 6th string while I played the D chord, it would sound like this. It sounds a little bit dissonant because the note of the E string is an E, but we're playing a progression of chords that is a D sound. So we don't want that E string to be hit, but we want the other 5 strings to be strung like so. So you usually want to try and only strum the strings that you're actually holding down mostly. So with our fingers in that D chord position still, let's see what each string sounds like as we hit it with our pick and hit each string that's held down for D. It'll sound something like this. As I said before, you want to make sure that you're not hitting all the strings at the same time, but just those lower 1 through 4 or even 1 through 5 strings, so it sounds like this. Again, using the tips of our fingers, not pushing too hard, and getting our action from our wrist. It sounds something like that. Now we're going to look at combining the D and A chords and getting better at switching between D and A. Now here's a neat little trick that you can use that will help you switch between D and A. You don't have to really move your index finger, your first finger, at all. You're simply keeping it in the same position so it's ready to move to the A chord. So when I play D and then I switch to A, my index finger stays on the same string. I simply only have to move my middle and ring finger to move to the new string so I can play A. It's one thing for me to talk about it. Let's take a closer look at that switch so you get a little bit more detail. So here we are in our D chord position. Now I'm going to switch from D to A. And as I said before, my index finger does not have to change strings at all. This string right here that I'm holding down, the third string. So if I play D, I'm going to switch to A. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I switch. Now you may notice what my thumb is doing. I know I talked about the thumb earlier. If you have bigger hands, you can hold the lower E string with your thumb so that if you do hit it, it mutes it so you don't hear it. And that's what I've done over the years, so it's sort of a habit I've developed. Now you obviously don't have to do that. You can simply place your thumb on the back of the neck like so that it's pointing up toward the ceiling and providing pressure. Not too much pressure, but just enough so that you help hold the strings down to get a full and clean sound. As I said before, if you can't keep up with the strumming and switching between D and A and you feel a lag when you switch the chords, that's perfectly natural. Everyone does that when they start to play guitar. But as you develop your skills with it and get used to the chords, you'll find switching chords gets easier and easier with practice. So with that, let's do 8 strums of D and then 8 strums of A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Back to D. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, now that you've learned A and D and E, friend, let me tell you, there's a whole new world of music that has just opened up to you. Thousands of songs use these 3 simple chords. And as you practice them and get better at transitioning between the 2 and 3 chords, you'll find you can play all sorts of music. A great song is one like Lean on Me, which starts with A, then moves to D, and briefly switches to E. And it sounds something like this. Lean on me, A, when you're not strong, it's D, and I'm me, your friend, back to A, and I'll help you carry on, E on 4, back to A, and it won't be long, D, and I'm gonna need A, somebody to As you see here, there's all sorts of songs that you can play with these 3 chords that you have now learned. Again, if switching the chords in rhythm is still a challenge, just simply play each chord, whether it's A, E, or D, and just get used to playing it in rhythm. And then when you do switch chords, you'll find it gets easier over time. Another great song I have to mention that you can play now with A, D, and E as well is Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond. Starts with A, D, and E, and it switches similar to what we just played of Lean on Me. Sweet Caroline, D, bum, bum, bum. Good times never felt so So spend the rest of the day playing these songs and just having fun with it, you know? And listening to these songs and having fun playing these chords along with them. Well, welcome back to another day of guitar lessons. Thank you for continuing to watch our video. And we're going to continue to look at the chords of D, A, and E together and get used to strumming those together in rhythm. So let's remember our hand position and remember which strings and fingers you can leave down without having to move your fingers at all. So to review, in the D chord position, your index finger on the third string does not have to move. You can simply slide it over to accommodate the other two that are moving to play A. And that minimizes some lag between the switching of chords. And then when it comes to E, when you switch from A to E, for example, you just have to slide your index finger down to the first fret and then move your other two fingers to strings 4 and 5, and then there you are. Let's work on our strumming of the D, A, and E chords. We'll focus on playing 8 strums or 8 counts on each chord, beginning with D, then moving to A, and then moving from A to E. We'll do that a few times. And if you'd like, pause this part of the video just to practice strumming these chords on your own. Well, let's begin with D. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, Very good. Good job. Well, now that you've learned again A, E, and D, there's all sorts of songs that you can play with these 3 chords. You know, one is you can play at any birthday party now. You can pull this out and impress people. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Or if you like the Beatles, you can play a little bit of twist and shout. We appreciate you watching this video and learning more. We hope that you continue to practice each day and knowing that as you build upon what you've learned the day before, you'll grow as a guitar player and as a musician. Again, just have fun with it. It'll be uncomfortable here and there for your fingers. Everyone experiences that, so be encouraged. And keep at it and find the joy and the fun that comes from exploring new songs. And we appreciate you watching.